Welcome. Dieter's the on-screen director here. This technology leaves a lot to be desired, let me tell you. Or maybe the operators leave a lot to be desired. But anyway, no matter. We're with you live again. This is Fearless Flight Live. I'm Capt Ron and my trusty band of helpers here. Dieter Staudinger. Yeah, and Eric was quick on the hand, Eric Larson and Diane Anson. So thanks to them for showing up, and thanks to you all for showing up. So this is another episode for anybody who has a fear of flying, or who knows somebody who has a fear of flying, or if you just like to check in with us and see what the latest in the industry is, at least the latest that got our attention. I'm going to get my slides out and running here. Okay, there you go.
Notice you guys are all wearing black. You're like ninjas.
Ninjas.
Like aviation, you are aviation ninjas. You've got it all going.
Told them we should have talked before the show.
I forgot to share, so now I'll share. I'll put up. Ta-da. Okay, I think we're in business there. So again, welcome, Fearless Flight Live, our weekly event, and we should have a little bit of a celebration. Oh my gosh, we passed 1,600. I don't know what's happening, but you guys are coming out of the woodwork. Dieter and I've been talking this week. Just every day I'm looking at 5 to 10 people that are attempting to join our Birds of a Feather, which we love. The more the merrier. So keep doing whatever you're doing, and keep drinking whatever you're drinking, because it's working, at least from our point of view. We have a special guest tonight. She's somewhere in the electronic ether trying to join us. So we'll be standing by for her to join us. And we're going to talk a little bit about, is it safe to fly? Big article this last week, or maybe a week before, and all four of us are going to be weighing in on that. But just a little bit of stuff to talk about, and we really want to engage with you. If you got any questions, we're gonna try to pull some real life feelings out of you and see how you feel about this with all the stuff that's in the news. And this is nothing new for all of us who've been in the airline industry forever. It always makes the news. It's unfortunate in many cases, but it does. And so we'll help you deal with the reality of it, and not use that as either another excuse to not fly, or to make it miserable for when you do fly. We'll talk a little bit about the Fearless Flyer Club. I am in temporary surroundings as of a week ago, or last Thursday, and so I had to postpone the this month's monthly live group coaching webinar, and it will be this Thursday. So if you couldn't have made it before, but now you can, please sign up and join us on Thursday night. We'll have a jam-packed audience, and we have a couple of guests that are going to come on the show. And as we always do, we want your questions and comments. So whether you're live watching us, or whether you're watching the replay of this, we really appreciate your questions, and don't be shy about it. All right. So with all the news out here, and I know Eric and Dieter and Diane alluded to this, or talked about some incidents in the news that have last week during the crew edition. And we wanted to just talk about that a little bit more. And you may have joined us. I can't remember when Arnold was on, but we had Arnold Barnett, who's a statistician from MIT. He's been a friend of the show for ever since 2019, I think, when he first helped us out here. And he was on not too long ago to give us an update about what it is, because we used to advertise your chances of dying in a crash are 1 in 33.2 million, and he says it's well above that now. So we drew upon some of his wisdom, and we want to just kind of reiterate that. He says, despite the turbulent start and all the stories in the news now, the statistics tell a different story. And I happen to know, because Eric mentioned to me before, but there was just another thing, right, in the news, Eric, yesterday or something like that?
Yeah, there was some current events that we were not necessarily hoping you wouldn't see, but I was madly scrambling and making notes so I could answer questions if they came in.
Yeah. And do the math. 40,000 people die on the highways every year in the United States alone. And, divide that by 365. And, you got a bunch of people that die every day, but you don't see a news story about that. And you don't see the follow-up, the forensic investigation as to what actually happened to cause somebody to lose their life in an automobile accident or any accident for that matter. But if it's an airplane, partly because in the past, in the distant past, it made a big splash, literally and figuratively, and now we don't kill people nearly as often in airplane crashes, but it is, two reasons. One, it still makes a big story because it's so rare that it happens. And we never pretend that there isn't reality or there isn't risk in flying airplanes. But if we manage the risk in automobile traffic or automobile business or driving cars, we wouldn't have anywhere near what we do, the deaths every year in that. And Arnold referred to airline safety as the eighth wonder of the world, and we'll kind of review that. So we want you to look at every flight as a flight of assurance and the fact that it happens. I didn't do this to be cynical or sarcastic or anything, but you probably know, if you got a pulse, there was a bridge that got run into today by a ship, and Dieter and Diane, or Eric and Diane were looking at the details. I just happened to grab the picture there, and then they were filling me in with some of the details. And again, we're contrasting. There were 6 people that so far have believed to have been died as a result of this. And I guarantee you that they didn't get up in the morning and think, I wonder if this is a bad day to be hanging around the Francis Scott Key Bridge there. So what were the circumstances and similarities, Eric, between this and maybe the airline industry?
Well, these guys have extensive training and extensive experience before they ever go to work here. And I'm stealing some of Dieter's thunder because he and Diane were looking up the stats, looking up the situation before this happened. But these guys have tremendous experience before they let them go piloting a cargo ship. And in fact, they are coming out of the harbor, not going in. As you can see, the ship is very low in the water. It's very heavy with cargo and fuel, and is piloted by a special pilot. As is the normal procedure, just the harbor pilot, and the harbor pilots are in charge of the ship, getting it out to open ocean. They go back in and work the next ship. But they wisely, as Dieter pointed out, radioed right away to authorities that they were having an engine problem. They'd in fact had an engine failure. It's I'm guessing probably 2 engines, 2 propellers, but nevertheless so heavy, and it takes so much time to turn and turn or stop or do anything, that loss of thrust condition like that over a short distance is not manageable. And when that happened, they hit the bridge, and as Dieter pointed out, they had radioed the emergency authorities and closed off the bridge. So before that had happened, there was all kinds of continuous traffic over the bridge, and all that was stopped. And this was, I don't know, 1:30 in the morning, I think he said. And the only people still remaining on the bridge were construction workers filling potholes, and they probably didn't dream the ship was going to hit the bridge and knock them in the water either, but it did.
And apparently I'm guessing when it lost directional control, it wasn't able to pass under the part of the bridge that is capable of handling the height, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It actually hit pretty much the pylon straight on, as far as from the video.
Okay, so it actually hit the bridge structure and caused it to collapse.
It did.
Okay.
But
Wow.
not to despair, Jim just had a comment, says Baltimore cruises will be rerouted to leave out of Norfolk. So
Wow.
that's Virginia, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other side. Just to put this in context, I just looked up. I lived in Honolulu for a long time, and so there were ships and aircraft carriers and Hickam Air Force Base and the Pearl Harbor rather, and for an aircraft carrier, it takes about a mile. It takes a mile at least to bring an aircraft carrier to a stop. So it's not like, even if things were going really sort of well, you could stop this thing in any kind of reasonable distance.
Yeah. I had a harbor captain on the jump seat one time. And I remember, I never knew much about this. We were talking a little bit about this before the show, but it's a highly specialized job, and every locale has, there's only a limited number of people that do that, like in the Baltimore area there. And so it's not even like you had, a rookie captain or somebody who wasn't familiar with that, because the harbor captain is the one driving the ship at that point in time. So it's interesting. So sad, sorry for the loss. It was real, but it just points out risk and why we kind of feel defensive sometimes, because the airline industry gets, some of it's well deserved, but the attention that is. But when you look at the numbers, which we're going to do here, just going to review this. And these are some of the things that Arnold brought out in his presentation. He says, one of them was, how has the mortality risk of passenger air travel changed from 68 to 22? And you have, your choices are, and we'd love to see your responses if you're out there live right now. Increased significantly. B has remained about the same. C has decreased slightly, and D decreased dramatically. Okay. So give you play a little traveling music like on Jeopardy, and give you a chance to go. And I don't know, are you seeing any answers pop up, Dieter?
No, but yeah, Tracy just said D.
Okay.
John says D as well.
And they both win the cigar.
And Jim also says D. So
yeah. So decreased dramatically. Okay. And next one, what's the death risk per flight? And this is where Arnold, again, if you recall, he went back and he just looked at all of his past research, and he adjusted in some interesting ways, and I'll touch on that in just a minute. But to see what the death risk is now compared to what we had been advertising, which was also his 1 in 33.2 million. So now is the death risk per flight for scheduled U.S. airlines. So this is domestic U.S. airlines, which most of you are involved in. From 2018 to 2022, was it A, 1 in 1 million, your chances of dying, B, 1 in 337 million, C, 1 in 10 million, or D, 1 in 500 million? Okay. That's something about Jeopardy, I guess. Okay.
I don't see any. Hold on, let me just.
Jim Duke did.
So we got a B. John
Okay.
got a B. Jim also with a B.
All right.
And Tracy also a B.
Very
Okay,
good, guys.
we are loyal audience followers there.
Well, we gave that away with the only oddball number in the collection.
Yeah. 1 in 37.
It didn't end in a 0.
Yeah. And I have another number that Arnold used to go with that. So the statistical probability. Oh, okay. So what that meant, to expand on this, if we had sustained the same rate of accidents deaths per flight from back in the 60s, today, this year, we would be looking at 12,470 passenger deaths this year alone. So that gives you a little bit more perspective on that. And what that equates to is, in order to achieve that risk, you'd have to fly once a day, every day, for 922,000 years. So and we did a thing last year about looking at shark attacks, and shark attacks are I think 2,000 times more likely than dying in an airplane crash. And shark attacks, 6 people per year, maybe something like that in the U.S. It's absolutely absurd. Okay, so the next one, this is Arnold again, our friend. He says, compares the risk of flying to which everyday situation? A, driving a car, B, walking the street, C, going to the supermarket, and D, riding a bicycle. I don't know if anybody, I remember him talking about this on the show. See if anybody
gets... you guys, this is a trick question.
It is.
I should have, you'll see the next slide. I should have put the next slide in this one to bias you. And the answer is not the bicycle. which I would have gone for. Go into the supermarket. And Arnold was very explicit about this. So you literally it's that low. So it's just.
By the way, I did want to throw in. I don't think Arnold mentioned that one, but so dying in a plane crash is 1 in 337. The actual chances of winning one of those Powerball jackpots is 1 in 292 million. So,
and I just looked up in the first half of 2023, as a pedestrian, there were 3,373 people died in the first half of 23.
That's why I said going to the. Oh, sorry, Diane. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's just being a pedestrian. So yeah.
That's why I said going to the store is a trick question. You have to teleport yourself there. If you walk, ride a bike, or drive there, you're asking for it.
okay.
Yeah, right.
We actually have not that this is not intelligence conversations, but we actually have a good question here. Is there a possibility of an aircraft breaking apart due to overuse and age? And we just talked about that in warm-up, actually. About age and airplanes. So, Captain Eric, what's your take on that? How would you answer that?
There is a possibility of it, but the airlines are replacing, cycling, and buying new so often that the odds of that are down there in something like what we're talking about here. And the only thing that comes to mind, and I don't remember how many years ago, I think it was in the 90s, was it Aloha operating that 737 Inter-Island?
It was actually in the 80s.
80s?
And I was there. I was flying back, and I saw that aircraft. I saw it parked at the end of the runway at the airport.
And people were aghast. And except for pilots and crew, and they said, wow, what a commercial for Boeing airplane, because the only main structural member left was the main keel beam. That thing could have folded like a book, and it didn't. And the reason I know a little more about that is I was working for Frontier Airlines, the original out of Denver, and that was one of our airplanes. We used to lease them, the airplanes, during the winter months which is traditionally our lower season. So that was there. And one of the problems that they identified was the rivets. And 2 was corrosion operating in salt air, and both of those problems have been addressed since that time.
Oh, go ahead, Diane.
I was just going to say, and we saw the plane within a day or two, and they had painted over the livery completely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the first order of business.
Yeah, Eric, explain why they did that.
So the first what we're referring to, if you guys don't remember yet or know
what livery means,
airplane was operating inter-island and a big chunk of the roof blew off in flight. So it was a convertible jet airplane due to, as Ron mentions, some riveting problems, the corrosion, and the huge number of pressurization cycles, because it was operating short haul of pressurizing, depressurizing, pressurizing, depressurizing. And it was getting far more fuselage stress than a normal airplane. But any airline not being interested in that sort of advertising, after there's an incident or an airplane is crippled by the side of the runway or some kind of accident, boy, within hours, they've had a specialized paint crew go out there and just paint it all gray like a battleship. So if you didn't know who did it, after a little bit, you can't tell what airline was operating the airplane. Oh man!
They actually painted it white. They painted the old
white. All right.
They painted the old aircraft white. The only loss of life was a flight attendant.
Yep. And look at that. That thing's pretty heavily damaged. And
there were pictures when it landed, before this one, of passengers in those rows in their seats with their seat belts buckled.
Yeah, the only fatality was sadly the flight attendant who was up and it started service and she got sucked up. To kind of put a closure on this, let's see, we're not sharing anymore, are we? So
I just had to share because
Yeah.
the picture.
that's okay. So now I forgot what I was going to say about about the airplane.
So and
I know.
let me just answer Tracy's from a high level perspective. Tracy's asking the follow-up question: how do they prevent overuse nowadays? And I'm gonna plug our book actually here, how to overcome fear of flying. We're actually going right into all the different maintenance cycles that each commercial airplane has to go through based on their, it's not just how many hours, it's also cycles, right? So landing and so takeoff and landing cycles. And you guys know all the numbers, but basically nothing is left to chance or guesswork at this point.
So we have, and the thing about it is, think about it. This is not Orville and Wilbur's airplane anymore. This is 121 years since Orville and Wilbur made the first flight. So we're not using the materials. We don't twist the airplane to make it turn like they had to do. We don't use the materials that they did. Look at your suitcases. Look at a suitcase from 50 years ago and look at the luggage that you take to the airport now. Thank God, because I brought a brand new set and I came back, huge dent. The first time that I went, they had caved in the top end of the suitcase, but materials are different. So one of the benefits you have flying in today's airlines is you don't have the same kinds of problems that they have. If you go back and you research that, there was an airplane 50, 60 years ago that crashed because it developed hairline cracks around the windows. They were using squared off windows in the case, and they don't do that anymore because it caused stress. They didn't know that. We didn't have the metallurgy technology then that we do today. So there's a lot of stuff that's happened, not just in airplanes, but I mean, you pick up your cell phone, look at the materials it's built out of. It's vastly different than those days. So it's not just it wasn't just a case of us getting better with our maintenance. It's a case of materials and everything supporting that, and the knowledge base that we have is so much greater. So that's why when something like Aloha happens, it is so rare, and when we figure out what caused it, we stop it. Unlike the automobile industry, which we just keep splashing people all over. So okay. So we'll go back here and put the slide up. So what's a recent change? What is a recent change in passenger behavior mentioned in the article? This was Arnold when he was here that could enhance flight safety. A, not using electronic devices during takeoff and landing. B, keeping seatbelts fastened when seated. C, only carrying on small bags. And D, avoiding alcoholic beverages during flights. And every one of you should get this because we say this, Diane, all of us say this every stinking week. The way to get hurt in an airplane is if you don't fasten your seatbelt. That's the biggest vulnerability you have. And if you
thankfully the bees keep flying in. Tracy, John, Jim, that's awesome. Yeah.
If there are other answers, we're reaching deaf ears.
So,
and obviously I haven't been trying hard enough as a flight attendant.
What is the main message that Arnold Barnett conveys about travel safety in the article? And gosh, everybody ought to get this one, but ABA is increasingly unsafe. If you look at the news, that might be your choice. It's reasonably safe, but could be improved. And that would be tempting. It's the safest mode of transportation. And B, it's as safe as it ever has been. Actually, I have the answer down there. I should have checked this a little more because actually C is true too, because it is the safest mode of transportation. It's safer than walking to the grocery store. That's a double whammy there. So anyway, so that's just a little bit of a review. We were scheduled to have Janice Gilbert. She just texted me. She's having trouble getting Zoom to work. No big surprise. So we're disappointed. We'll get her back on here. I'll just share with you what she sent me a one of those divine texts that I get, and here it is. Says, I didn't have a chance to sign up for one of your monthly webinars this past year. I have been so busy lately. I'll be taking a trip with my daughter soon to Bermuda. This is something I never would have been able to do if I hadn't taken your course. This is something I always wanted to do. Other women that I know have gone on trips with their daughters, and I always wished I could do that. I always wanted to let you know something else. Not only was I afraid to fly for years, I was also so afraid when my kids would fly. Now I don't even give it a thought. Such a nice expected bonus from taking your course. Hope to sign up for one of your webinars sometime soon. She's actually going to be on Thursday night. Like I told you, for every time I hear the danger zone, you know, this is a thing, she equates me to the fighter pilot in Top Gun, which is flattering, but probably overrated. And anyway, so that's a kind bit of feedback from her, and I get something like that virtually every day, and something really deep like that at least once a week. So I always thank you all out there for the feedback. I pass it on to the group here, but it means a lot to us to know that we have made a difference out there, and just keep it up. The two things that it takes most is perseverance and persistence. Just don't ever give up. And gone are the days where we would advertise, we just want you to be more comfortable flying. We want you to totally not have to think about being on an airplane. And that's possible. And we have a number of people that have testified to that now. This is just to promote the Fearless Flyer Club, kind of a brainstorm of Dieter a couple of years ago. We've been talking about some kind of a continuity membership. This is if you had to restrict yourself budget-wise, this is the thing you should do. You should come and talk to us every month, because it'll keep you connected with us. It'll keep your brain flowing, and it'll keep you connected with other people to remind you that you're not alone out there. So there's the link. Dieter will put that in the notes, I'm sure. And and we've been promoting the lifetime VIP membership. This is if you were to do that, you don't have to pay any more for the monthly webinars. You get 2 free 60-minute coaching sessions in there. And if you add up all the stuff down below here under the lifetime VIP here, it would cost you over $2,000 to do that. And you can get over it. And we have people that you know, they nickel and dime themselves and get in and all that. And we have a payment plan for that as well. We split it up into 4 payments if that'll help. But being an ongoing long-term member is the best and most reliable way to stay fear-free when you fly. This is the details on Thursday night's monthly webinar. This month, we're going to talk about how do you know when you're getting better? You know, a lot of people say, you know, gosh, I don't know, you know, and part of it is because people wait until they're waiting for that moment when they don't have any anxiety at all. Not going to happen. The way your brain is wired, you need it to be activated in order to get the therapeutic benefit of the exposure of actually flying on an airplane. So you can quit waiting for that. What you don't have to wait for is the confidence to know that the airplane is safe and that you will be safe. You'll be able to limit you won't have those runaway episodes of anxiety, fearful of a panic attack. And so Thursday night, March 28th, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. It is, we'd love to have you on live for the interaction, but if you can't make it, the replays are available. Okay. All right. So any other questions or anything, Dieter?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank Sharon. Sharon says, I'm flying 1 month from today and feeling pretty good about it. But the last time I had a new fear of heights happen. I'll be tuning in each week until my flight. And Jim says, I get to fly on a MAX 8 in May. So that's pretty cool. Oh my God, I think I'm just nervous of panic attacks on a plane. That's Amira. Amira, and again, we don't want to push the Fearless Flight Club on anybody, but one of the reasons why we really thought that a continuity program is so important, because we all expect our doctors, our pilots, and nurses and whatever to keep current, keep trained in their profession. And so Capt Ron and I thought, well, what if we not only you get the monthly live coaching every month, but you also actually get the meditations, the guided visualizations that we're having, put music with it. So we have about 20 different meditation tracks, both audio and video, and they keep increasing every month. And John, thanks for that comment. John says he's a VIP member, can't be happier, flew last month for the first time in 5 years, and flying next month to Europe and to Europe in June. Who would have thought? Well, I'm so happy for you, John, and this is really what the confidence builder in having it in your travel accessories, so to speak, because you can use the app and you can stream all of the meditations, all of the replays. We have some other bonus content in there, and I think, Ron, we counted 14 replays, like of our
Oh, we're actually
coaching.
almost. I think the 2-year mark is April.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So April will be number 25, I think. So yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm glad I was listening at first, Dieter. I thought you said medications, not meditations. I'm like, really?
Okay,
What medication?
Dieter, come back out of hiding.
We're starting to branch out.
Yeah.
Come back out of hiding, Dieter. Okay. So I have a couple things that the group doesn't know about here. One is what we discussed this a little bit. So are any of you guys going to quit flying because of all the bad press?
No.
Okay. All right. And how do you make that decision? What keeps you flying despite the fact that United loses a tire and Boeing's losing doors?
Well, it's good you brought that up, because remember the stats the United thing we were talking about specifically?
Yeah.
Let me hit that for 30 seconds. Last week during Crew Edition, we were talking about that because United has had more than a few incidents. And in fact, there was a follow-up this week. They had 10 separate incidents unrelated in 2 weeks in March, including but not limited to a wheel falling off a departing plane, a leading edge slat, disintegrated en route, and they rolled off a runway in Houston after the loss of ability to apply any hydraulics to the brakes. Fortunately, no one injured on any of these, and some Airbus planes involved as well. Well, this stuff doesn't go unanswered, and the FAA is now considering restrictions, serious restrictions with United until they straighten their ship out, of limiting growth, pausing their ability to add new routes, and holding new planes being added into service, and holding upgrading new captains. And these are serious restrictions. So this stuff doesn't go unanswered, and they are going to have to, I hate to say it, but straighten up and fly right, or the FAA is they're going to suffer very serious repercussions. So this stuff doesn't just happen and then go away with a news cycle.
Yeah, and the airline industry takes action, and we never say that it isn't risky, but the risk is so low, and it's tragic when anybody dies, and you can talk to the families of those bridge workers, and they'll support that. But there's not a way to travel that's safer, and do not despair. Stay informed and keep doing that. Okay, a couple of independent comments here or afterthoughts here. So, have you ever seen? I walked into a place years ago and I saw a sign on the wall that said, "This place is a nonprofit. It wasn't intended to be that way." So, Fearless Flight, we're not a nonprofit, but that's the way it turns out. And I want to. This is a culmination of a week of us doing a little internal bouncing off each other. And I just want to acknowledge the people on the screen here, not myself, but the others here. The first thing is that Dieter's the only one that right now is able to take money out of this. And I say that not to embarrass him or shame him, but he's the only one that hasn't reached a stage in life where he's got some retirement or something to support him. And believe me, he's way undercompensated for what I would like to and what he's worth. But I do want to acknowledge that he's working really, really hard. And a lot of the things that I promised 10 years ago took 10 years because I didn't have anybody like Dieter to help me do that. And he has a lot more to offer than just his technical expertise. And my goal is to utilize him more. And so we're making some changes, which you already have been appraised of, but I probably should have said something earlier. Eric and I met more than 30 years ago, because when he came and got tagged to fly with me one time, and we hit it off, and down the road we both developed roles in the airline out in addition to our flying duties, and we continued to work together. And Eric asked me about this fear of flying thing, and he started coming to the classes many years ago, and he got hooked there. There were times when we would disengage a little bit, but he's been a long time supporter of this. Diane, I met, oh my God,
9 years ago.
How many?
9.
9. And Diane was working as a volunteer at the airport, already in a service orientation. And she asked me one time, she said, "Hey, people ask me about where Fear of Flying is. Where do you hold this?" And it was hard to tell, because it was like pin the tail on a donkey, depending on what this level of remodeling and turning space into retail at the airport. We never knew where we were going to be sometimes. But anyway, I told her, and she said, "Do you mind if I come down to the class?" And then she never left. And I mean that in an affectionate way. So all of them have really been helpful. And then they suggested, when I had some real busyness and stuff going on, even before I had to move out of my house. And so they offered the idea of the crew edition, and we just revisited that. And they were kind of trying to convince me of how this affected you all, and it had a different draw and all that. And what I wanted to tell them tonight is, I don't really give a rat's ass even if there are any numbers. What I really want to do is I want them to feel like they're contributing, and that doesn't necessarily mean in the way that I would have thought of originally. So that's what I wanted to publicly recognize them for. We value your feedback, and it is nice to let them do something without me in the room. Once I get over my fear of abandonment, I'll be much better with that. But I just wanted to acknowledge everybody tonight. Whew. And it chokes me up. My goal, before I retired in 2007, I was going to say I didn't take any payment at all. That's not true. We came out with the FearlessFlight kit in about 2002, I think. That was the first and only thing I ever charged for. And now we try to charge. So some of you are out there saying, "Well, I paid you a lot of money," or whatever. And we're very grateful for that. But we're still more under the umbrella of like the Robin Hood of fearful flying. We try to get revenue when we can, and keep Dieter at least from being homeless, and out advertising will work for food. And at the same time, we do extend the privileges in the course content to people who can't afford it. So thanks for any of you who've supported. I have had people write me a check. The most shocking one was a free class. Somebody wrote me $1,000 at the end of that night. It blew me away. So we appreciate every one of you out there. I am not holding my hat out. We are trying to monetize this, though, so that we can keep it going. I am 76 years old. I'm closer to 77 now. And it's rumored that one day I will not be here anymore. And I really do want that.
Well, then it'll be really scary if it's just the three of us all the time.
And it's interesting to have done this for 37 years, to see that there is no other free program at a major airport like we still have. It just isn't valued by any of the. I shouldn't say it isn't valued. They just ignore it, basically, because they have enough money coming in. from the people who aren't afraid to fly. There's no formal training that I know of at any airline. There's only one airline today in the world that's doing that, and that's EasyJet over in England, and you got to go to England to do their course. So
Sandra says best money I ever spent.
Oh,
Without this class, I would have never gotten on a plane.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, you guys have made my life. I tell you, this is totally unexpected to be this age in life, and absolutely just crazy about getting up in the morning and doing this. And so I wanted to take that time, thank everybody here personally. You will be seeing them on the crew edition, the basic, I think it's what, the third
Tuesday of the
April,
month.
yeah.
So it kind of coincides with the webinar that we do. So
usually it falls on that same week. Yeah.
And we really value your engagement and participation. I know it's hard to have the courage to write something and be, to come out of the shadows and out of the shame because you think you're the only one, but trust me, you aren't. And we need more people to pioneer that. We're trying to get the numbers up so that, because that makes it a little bit easier for people to feel comfortable. But anyway, that's
and I would just want to say, from my perspective, I want to thank these three guys because they encouraged and supported me on my adventure 5 years ago to become a flight attendant. And it would have been much more difficult if these three gentlemen weren't in my corner, because like Ron and I are almost the same age. I got hired at age 71 and I'm 76 now. And there's no way I could have done this without these wonderful men being there and saying, you can do it. So it's these guys are just there for everybody. I just want to say that.
Yeah, thanks, Diane. And we love you. I absolutely love the people that I've worked with. When you come to me or any of the group here, you're in a state of vulnerability that few people will ever have the courage to get to, and that is help me. And you're my heroes. I'm a Vietnam vet, but believe me, it's nothing like the courage that I used to believe what courage was. Watching you come to me and come forward and ask for help is the most courageous thing that I've seen human beings do. So thanks, everybody. That'll conclude another evening of Fearless Flight Live, and we hope to see you next week. And bring your friends with you.
All right.